Yosef, the 11th son of Jacob and the firstborn of Rachel, was deeply loved by his father. Yaakov showed his special affection for Yosef by sending him a beautiful gift, a beautiful ketonet pasim, a coat of many colors, signifying his favor above his brothers. This favoritism stirred jealousy and resentment among his older brothers, who viewed Yosef as a great threat to their position in the family. Adding to their animosity, Yosef shared two prophetic dreams. In the first dream, he described his brother's sheaves of grain bowing to his sheaf. In the second, he recounted how the sun, moon, and stars, 11 of them, bowed to him. These dreams suggested that Yosef would one day rule over his family, provoking even greater anger. Yaakov rebuked Yosef for his boldness, but secretly pondered the meaning of the dreams. One day, Yaakov sent Yosef to check on his brothers, who were grazing their flocks near Shechem. When Yosef arrived, his brothers conspired against him. Initially, they considered killing him, but Reuben, the eldest, convinced them to throw him into an empty bore instead, intending to rescue him later. While Reuben was away, Yehuda suggested selling Yosef to a caravan of Yisraelim passing by. The brothers agreed and sold Yosef for 20 pieces of silver. As the Yisraelim began their journey to Mitzrayim, Yosef cried out to his brothers, praying for mercy, but they turned away from his pleas. To cover their crime, the brothers dipped Yosef's ketonet in goat's blood and presented it to Yaakov, who mourned deeply, believing his beloved son had been killed by a wild beast. Yosef's journey with the Yisraelim was filled with suffering. Bound in heavy chains, his wrists and ankles bruised by iron shackles, he was forced to walk alongside the camels under the scorching desert sun. The traders showed him no mercy, whipping him whenever he slowed down. Exhausted and heartbroken, Yosef cried out in pain and despair, pleading for Yahuwah's deliverance. One night, after an especially grueling day, Yosef lay on the ground, overwhelmed by grief. He whispered, "Mother, that you were only here. You always loved me and protected me. What would you say to me now?" In his despair, Yosef experienced a vision of his deceased mother, Rachel. She appeared before him, radiant and serene, her eyes filled with love and compassion. "Yosef, son," she said gently, why do you cry? Beloved child, Yahuwah is with you, even in this trial. Tears streamed down his face. Yosef replied, "Mother, I am lost. My brothers have betrayed me, and I'm a slave in a foreign land. Why has Yahuwah allowed this to happen to me? What will become of me?" Rachel knelt beside him, her presence filling him with warmth. "My son, Yahuwah's ways are always higher than ours. The dreams he gave you are not in vain. Trust in his plan, for he will use you to save many lives." "Mother, I am afraid," Yosef said. "The journey is harsh, and I do not know if I have the strength to endure." Rachel placed a hand over his heart. "You are stronger than you know, Yosef. Yahuwah has chosen you for a great purpose. Remember my love for you and let it guide you. You are never alone. Yahuwah's hand is upon you." The vision faded, but Rachel's words remained with Yosef, renewing his faith and giving him strength to endure. When the caravan reached Mitzrayim, Yosef was taken into the slave market. Bruised and weary, he was placed alongside other captives. Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard, noticed Yosef's intelligence and dignity. Yahuwah caused Potiphar to favor Yosef, and he purchased him for a high price, intending to make him a servant in his household. Despite being a slave, Yosef excelled in Potiphar's household. His wisdom, integrity, and faithfulness earned him Potiphar's trust, and he was soon placed in charge of all his master's possessions. However, Potiphar's wife falsely accused Yosef of assault after he refused her advances. Although innocent, Yosef was thrown into prison. Though he was now in a dark and lowly place, Yahuwah's favor never left him. The prison warden noticed Yosef's exceptional character, wisdom, and trustworthiness, and he quickly placed him in charge of overseeing the other prisoners. Yosef carried out his duties diligently, always trusting that Yahweh had a plan for him. One day, two high-ranking officials of Pharaoh, his chief cupbearer, the Sar ha-Mashkim, and his chief baker, the Sar ha-Oflim, were thrown into the same prison. Both had offended Pharaoh, though their specific transgressions were not revealed. Yosef, observing their troubled experiences and expressions one morning, approached them with concern. "Why do you look so sad today?" Yosef asked. The men replied, "We each had a dream last night, but there was no one to interpret them." Yosef filled them with faith in Yahuwah and said, "Interpretations belong to Elohim. Please tell me yours." The cupbearer spoke first. "In my dream, I saw a vine in front of me. On the vine were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, and its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in his hand." Yosef listened carefully, and Yahuwah gave him the interpretation. "This is the meaning," Yosef said. "The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position. You will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as you used to do when you were cupbearer." Encouraged by their positive interpretation, Yosef made a heartfelt plea. "But remember me when it is well with you. Please show kindness to me and mention me to Pharaoh so that I might be brought out of this prison. I was forcibly taken from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in this dungeon." The cupbearer nodded, seemingly moved by Yosef's words, and promised to remember him. The chief baker, seeing that Yosef had given a favorable interpretation to the cupbearer, eagerly shared his dream. "In my dream, I had 3 baskets of bread on my head. In the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating them out of the basket of my head." Yosef listened and then solemnly replied, "This is the meaning. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and impale your body on a pole, and the birds will eat away at your flesh." The baker's face fell, and Yosef, though saddened by the grim message, remained faithful in delivering the truth, as Yahuwah revealed it. 3 days later, on Pharaoh's birthday, the interpretations of Yosef came to pass exactly as he had said. Pharaoh restored the chief cupbearer to his position, and he once again placed Pharaoh's cup in his hand. However, the chief baker was executed, his body impaled on a pole, just as Yosef had foretold. Despite Yosef's plea, the chief cupbearer forgot about him and did not mention him to Pharaoh. Yosef remained in prison, yet he continued to trust in Yahweh's timing and sovereignty. 2 years after Yosef interpreted the dreams of the cupbearer and baker, the king of Mitzrayim had 2 vivid and disturbing dreams. These dreams were not ordinary. They carried a divine message from Yahuwah intended to reveal the future and prepare the land for what was to come. In Pharaoh's first dream, he stood by the Nile River, the lifeblood of Mitzrayim. Suddenly, 7 sleek, fat cows emerged from the river and began grazing among the reeds. They were healthy and robust, a symbol of abundance and prosperity. Then, 7 other cows emerged from the river. These cows were gaunt, thin, and sickly, a stark contrast to the first group. The emaciated cows approached the fat cows and devoured them, but even after consuming the healthy cows, they remained as gaunt and sickly as before. Pharaoh awoke in a cold sweat, deeply troubled by the imagery. However, he soon fell asleep again, only to dream a second time. In this second dream, Pharaoh saw 7 heads of grain, plump and good, growing on a single stalk. They were full and golden, representing abundance. Afterward, 7 thin and scorched heads of grain sprouted, withered by the east wind. These thin heads of grain swallowed up the plump, full heads, leaving Pharaoh even more disturbed than before. When Pharaoh awoke, the meaning of these dreams eluded him, and he was filled with unease. He summoned all the magicians and wise men of Mitzrayim to interpret the dreams, but none could provide a satisfactory explanation. As Pharaoh grew increasingly frustrated, the cupbearer suddenly remembered Yosef. He approached Pharaoh and said, "Today I am reminded of my shortcomings. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and imprisoned me and the chief baker, we each had a dream the same night. A young Hebrew boy was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each of us the meaning of our dreams, and things turned out exactly as interpreted." Hearing this, Pharaoh immediately summoned Yosef from the prison. Yosef was quickly cleansed, shaved, and clothed before being brought to Pharaoh's presence. Pharaoh recounted his dreams to Yosef, saying, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it, but I have heard it said of you, that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Yosef, with humility and confidence in Yahuwah, replied, I cannot do it, but Elohim will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. Pharaoh then described both dreams in detail. Yosef listened carefully, and Yahuwah revealed the meaning to him. Yosef said, Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. Elohim has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up afterward are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. It is as I say to you, Pharaoh, Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Mitzrayim, but 7 years of famine will follow them, so severe that all the abundance in the land will be forgotten. The famine will ravage the land. The abundance will not be remembered, because the famine that follows it will be so severe. The reason their dream was given to Pharaoh in the 2 forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by Elohim, and Elohim will do it soon. After interpreting the dreams, Yosef did not stop there. He offered practical advice to Pharaoh, demonstrating wisdom and leadership. Now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Mitzrayim. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take 1/5 of the harvest during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store up the grain under Pharaoh's authority to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Mitzrayim, so that the land may not perish because of the famine. Pharaoh and his officials were astonished by Yosef's interpretation and impressed by his wisdom. Pharaoh said to the court, Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the spirit of Elohim? Pharaoh turned to Yosef and said, Since Elohim has made all this known to you, there is no one it's so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all of my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. Pharaoh gave Yosef his signet ring, dressed him in fine linens and robes, and placed a gold chain around his neck. He appointed Yosef as second in command over all Mitzrayim. Yosef was given the Egyptian name Zephanath Paneah and married Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. Yosef oversaw the collection and storage of grain, ensuring the nation's survival during the famine. When the famine struck Canaan, Yaakov sent his 10 oldest sons to Mitzrayim to buy grain. Yosef recognized them immediately, though they did not recognize him. To test their character, he accused them of being spies and demanded that they bring their youngest brother, Binyamin, as proof of their honesty. Yosef held Shimon as a hostage and secretly returned their silver to their sacks. When the brothers returned with Binyamin, Yosef tested them further by planting his silver cup in Benjamin's sack. After accusing them of theft, Yehudah pleaded for Benjamin's release, offering himself as a slave in his place. Moved by Yehudah's selflessness, Yosef revealed his identity, saying, I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? Overcome with emotion, Yosef forgave his brothers, saying, You meant evil against me, but Yahuwah meant it for good, to preserve many lives. Yosef sent for Yaakov and his household, inviting them to live in Goshen. Yaakov rejoiced at the news and journeyed to Mitzrayim, where he and Yosef embraced tearfully. Before his transition, Yaakov baraked his sons and instructed them to bury him in the land of Canaan. Yosef remained faithful to Yahuwah, ensuring his family's well-being and reminding them of Yahuwah's promise to return them to their land.